I think start by listening more. I think that there's such a nervous chatter reality in cocktail parties. Everybody wants to talk and rattle on, but they don't ever listen to what the other person's saying because they're always trying to think about the next thing they're going to say.
Yeah.
And so if you truly engage and listen, and mind you, I'm not saying I'm like I crush this all the time.
Right.
Don't misconstrue that, but like if you listen to other people, you're truly going to get to know who they are.
Yeah. Welcome to Beyond the Blueprint, powered by Contractors, Closers, and Connections, Orlando. Join me for in-depth interviews with some of the top commercial real estate and development executives in the industry. We uncover their success stories, their strategies, and their lessons learned along the way. Gain valuable insight whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out. Beyond the Blueprint, I'm your host, Branson Bowen, and we are sitting down with part 2 with Trey Vick with V3 Capital Group. Part 1, we discuss some of his origin stories, his success stories, and how you should get started in commercial real estate industry. We're going to jump into some Q&A, if that's cool with you.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So the first question is going to be, what's your definition of success? We'll start there.
Success definitely looks different for everybody. I would say, for me, success looks like having a good basket of healthy relationships in your life. And what I mean by that is having a healthy relationship with your family, having a healthy relationship with your business partners, having a healthy relationship with your friends. I think if you, at the end of the day, check out with all of those things, you're pretty damn successful.
Yeah.
I think that I always say in business, money follows success. It's not the other way around. You don't chase money to get success.
Sure.
And so I think that would be how I would define it is if you can close the chapter with nothing but good relationships, you probably crushed it.
Yeah. What would you say that, knowing that now, right? Your biggest misconception of success, or the world's biggest misconception of success?
Yeah, I think for me, even when I was younger, it was all about how, success was, I want to make $1 million by the time I'm 25, or, it's so easy and measurable to measure success on income or materialist things or experiences or whatever. But at the end of the day, the core is the relationship. So that was my misconception, and I think a very common one. And again, I think if you chase that as your barometer of success, it's too easy to lose it, right? Like, let's say you crushed it and made $100 million, but then you made some poor investments and you went down to zero. Are you now unsuccessful?
Right.
Well, what if you went through that same process and through that treated everybody fairly and did all the right things and just had a bad market experience and you have great relationships? You probably still had some success in your life. So,
was there something in your life that made you change that mindset?
I think just getting older and I think going through the recession and watching folks that were flying really high and took a lot of identity in their things and their money, and watching that go away and how they kind of lose their identity. And I'm not an idealist either. Like, trust me, nice things are great and nice cars are great, nice houses, all that stuff is fine and good. It just can't be your definition. So I wouldn't say personally I had like any large epiphany. I am a Christian. I think a fundamental in being a Christian is it's not about all the treasures you store up here. It's the treasures you store up in heaven too. I think that's a piece that plays into kind of my core fundamental, but yeah, just try not to define yourself by something you can lose.
Yeah.
Well,
and your relationships are far more valuable in heaven than they
my
are
gosh. Oh yeah.
than the car you drive.
Yeah. I mean, goodness gracious. I think that, and it is kind of cliche. Relationships are core to everything, but it is unbelievably true. I mean, we talked about your networks and all those things. I mean, there's one thing about having business connections. There's another thing about having business relationships, or personal connections and personal relationships. And there is a distinction.
And what's that distinction?
There's a lot of people right? Like, there's somebody that you could call today and that they know who you are and you could ask them for a favor. That doesn't mean you guys have some deep relationship. You just have a connection. Having that person that you spend, the next 6, 8, 9, 12 months, getting to know them, getting to know what makes them tick. That's the difference of a relationship. It's not just somebody you met at a networking event and
Right.
you know that they're in this industry and you need help in that industry. This is somebody that you've curated a relationship with, and you know what makes them tick and they know what makes you tick. And you're not always asking them for something that helps you.
Right.
It's how can you also help them?
Right.
It's a two-way
What would
street.
you say like the biggest challenge has been in building your businesses?
I would say people are the biggest challenge, frankly. Just it's all about finding the right people, because no business can be built on any one person,
Right.
the founder or any one employee either. But it's finding the right people with the right mentality. It's like a special recipe, and it's impossible to be recreated, kind of thing. But that's the hardest part, is finding the right team, and then in growth stage, like keeping everything organized, and everybody loves the startup, right?
Right.
You got the first 5 employees. I mean, our first company, our first office, we're playing ping pong in the center of the office all the time in the evenings. And it's different. When you have 5 people, you
Right.
can do that. When you got 25 people, when you have 50 people, when you have 100, you can't do that. And so
Right.
it's how do you keep that sense of like camaraderie and family and fun, but still be scalable and professional and
Right.
accountable. Like
Right.
that. That's probably the thing that's also a big challenge, is to create structure but not feel corporate.
Sure.
And we're squarely in that right now.
Yeah. In that growth stage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
So how do you let's go into calculated risk, right? You're in development, you're in the real estate market, you're building the business. There's obviously a lot of risk that's associated with all of those
Sure.
things.
Yeah.
So how do you take calculated risk, and what are some of the things that you look at when you're taking those and assessing those risks?
So the best story of risk I've got is I was a banker, an unnamed developer in town, great guy, great developer, brings me a pro forma early on in his career, and he's really excited about making this pitch to a landowner to partner with them to buy this deal. And I look at the pro forma, and it was calculated. It had a calculation challenge to it, and he basically would have, the split he offered to this guy, he gave away all the profit. Like, he would have done it for free, really. And he had no idea. And so my comment out of that was like, never take a risk you don't know you're taking. You can't do this business. You can't do really any business without taking a risk. Just make sure you know it's there.
Right.
There's so many people that when it's all said and done, they say they took this risk, but they actually didn't realize they were taking it. Like, that's the biggest challenge to business, to real estate. If you don't identify the risks, they're going to sneak up on you. And there's some that you just can't get, like COVID. Nobody expected or underwrote a pandemic in
Right.
2020. I started a senior housing company in 2020.
Yeah.
Like, trust me, that wasn't on my bucket of risks I was trying to mitigate. So you do your best, but then you just adjust. And like in banking, it's risks and mitigants. How do you mitigate the risks? Good sound fundamentals helps, but hard work ultimately, when you get stuck with something you didn't
Right.
expect, you just have to work as hard as you can
Right.
through it.
And at least if you analyze those risks ahead of time, then you have some idea of like how you're going to overcome them when it
Yeah.
happens.
That's why you need to, yeah, exactly. Like, if you knew that was a challenge, you had to think of something that would have overcome that challenge.
Right.
But if you had no idea that challenge could occur, you're probably making it up as you go.
Right. Just like COVID. Everybody's doing that.
And that happened. I mean, you saw it for the first 6 months. Nobody had a playbook on how to deal with that. No company knew exactly, should I have people work from home? Should I have them, what do I do? We were all making it up as we go.
I think there's still challenges that companies are still facing today from the repercussions of COVID.
Oh my gosh. Well, the workforce and the work environment was so dynamically shifted from that.
I think it expedited it probably like 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
So I think it probably was coming that people were going to work from home, people were going to have
probably,
more time off. But I think because the pandemic hit, it really made companies just take that shift, and they're not prepared for it.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that, in the podcast that I was on, we talked about was like the office market and how like that may or may not come back. And I was like, well, I think companies need to learn how to properly structure their business that would accommodate for that, right? So they almost have to work back and create a business plan that allocates towards
I
the
think
new
it's a
norm.
new risk that you're now figuring out how to mitigate. I think the other thing on risk too is it should probably have a commensurate reward.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's the other thing. Like, it's one thing to identify risks and know you're taking a risk, but take a risk for the idea that there's a reward on the other end.
Right.
You know, don't take a risk just for the sake of a risk.
And then you level that risk reward.
Right.
Is
you
it
have
worth
to
it?
make that decision. Is it worth it? I mean, it's like jumping off of a cliff into water. Is it too high? Is it too, are you going to make it when you're done? Jumping out of a perfectly good airplane.
Right.
Is there a thrill good enough for the risk?
Right.
You just have to decide. Business is no different.
Yeah. So how do you manage your time? You got these businesses, you got a great family. How do you manage your time between separating yourself in those businesses, but then also making sure your whole life is centered, your relationships are good?
So I'm not the greatest time manager. I'd be the first to admit. So I basically integrated them all together. I mean, my wife and I share a desk at the office.
There you go.
I have 2 of my 3 kids that work at the office currently because it's summertime. My
Get
mom
some
and dad
quality
work
time.
at the office. So for me, and I have that luxury of owning the business, and it is easier to integrate. So for me, honestly, that has been my strategy for success is full integration, which isn't always awesome. 'Cause sometimes you'd like to turn it off. But I do think that people like what I do at V3 to help our team do that is it's called the 4th V, and it's vacation. And so we give people money every year. We give them $1,000. If they take 5 consecutive days off, they can use that $1,000 towards their vacation, whether it's buying plane tickets or hotel rooms or an excursion on the cruise or whatever it is. But I really want people to do that because they're happier, they're rested. You know, you take a break and you get your brain kind of out of the mix. You come back with better, fresh ideas. So that's how we're trying to do that for our team and help them prioritize.
How often do the people use it?
They get it once a year.
Well, I'm saying
almost everybody on our team uses it every year. And then we also have an RV that they have access to. So if they don't want the money, they can take the RV for a week. So it's little weird things like that that we help show people that it is important to take the time off.
Yeah. One of the things that we do is we tell people your vacation doesn't roll over, right? They'll
And
have one or 2 days that roll over, but we're we want you to take the vacation to get that time off.
Yep, ours doesn't roll either.
I have one guy, he literally will sit at home for a week. He's like, I'm sitting home in my pajamas watching Netflix for a week.
Yeah.
I'm like,
hey,
that's
man,
fine.
Whatever works for you.
That's what you want to do.
Whatever works for you.
Yeah.
Everybody has a thing. Yeah.
So let's go through failures, right? So we talked about risk, and obviously there's some challenges and failures when you're taking those risks because a lot of times, it doesn't always work out.
Yeah,
You played baseball, right? And so I was a baseball guy. You fail more times than you succeed.
Oh, yeah,
and that's
still get
one
the
thing.
Hall of Fame.
Yeah, right. You still get in the Hall of Fame. You still get paid millions of dollars.
Yeah.
How do you look at failure, and then what are some things that you do to kind of overcome or push through that failure?
I think failure is inevitable if you're willing to take a risk, right? I mean, I think it's a couple things. If you don't learn from a failure, it's truly a failure.
Sure.
I think if your failures happen and you're able to do a postmortem and figure out where did I miss, whether it's a deal, whether it's a relationship, a business, whatever that is that failed, if you get out to the other side and you look at, all right, what did I miss? What risk did I not think about? What lesson did I learn? That takes that failure and makes you better. And then it's no longer, in my opinion, a failure. And then go do it again. And don't make the same freaking mistake.
Yeah, right.
So that's what I would say is the biggest thing. The other thing is don't be defined by your failures. I think sometimes, everything's about confidence, right? People that have some confidence in themselves or their business or their deals, it's just easier to get it done. And they have some failures and it just saps that confidence every time. So you've got to fight through that and maintain confidence and know that, you know what you're doing. You do have the ability to execute on what you're trying to do, and don't let that failure kind of sit in the back of your mind. Don't take that risk because remember what happened last time.
Yeah. You don't want to get gun shy.
Yeah. You've got to maintain confidence through failure.
Today's episode is brought to you by Bryce Knuth of Insurance Office of America. As a contractor or real estate owner in Florida, you've likely experienced the impact of rising insurance premiums year after year. With the challenging insurance marketplace, having a specialist who focuses on your industry is critical now more than ever before. If you'd like a second set of eyes on your current insurance program or don't have a relationship with your current broker, please contact Bryce Knuth at 407-697-6944 via call or text, or email bryce.knuth Knuth at IOAUSA.com. Don't let rising insurance costs catch you off guard. Reach out to Bryce today. So last question, what is your view? So you're a big relationship guy, right? How do you build a strong relationship? Let's say, again, someone's coming new into the industry. They want to network. They want to get out there. How do they start off with building that relationship? And what's some key valuable components that someone can use in order to start building strong relationships with people?
I think start by listening more. I think that there's such a nervous chatter reality in cocktail parties. Everybody wants to talk and rattle on, but they don't ever listen to what the other person's saying because they're always trying to think about the next thing they're going to say.
Yeah.
And so if you truly engage and listen, and mind you, I'm not saying I crush this all the time. Right. Don't misconstrue that. But like if you listen to other people, you're truly going to get to know who they are. Yeah. And then as a young person coming into the business, start hearing what people's problems are. And maybe it's not even a problem. Maybe it's a challenge that they have in their life that you're going to gather from having a beer with somebody or having a lunch meeting with somebody. And then put a little thought into how can you help them solve that problem, even if it doesn't do anything for you personally.
Right.
Other than shows that you do genuinely care and have a potential solution for them. And then what that looks like at the end of the day, you don't know, but it will build a relationship with that person because right. you did attempt to help solve one of their problems. I mean, that's kind of entrepreneurship too, is solving problems. Well, relationship building is the same. And then having like genuine empathy or care for people too. Like, if they're having a tough time, like sometimes you just need to pick up the phone and call someone that you know lost a deal, and you don't even say anything about the deal. Just, hey, you want to go grab lunch, or just to know that they could use probably a little bit of a boost. And people will do that for you too. And over years, that just creates genuine relationship where I'm not always looking for something from you.
Like creates a depth.
Yeah, like if every time someone calls you, they're asking you for something. Either A, you're not answering that phone call all the time, or B, it just doesn't feel real. It's always transactional.
What I've found is, as your network builds, you have the opportunity to, everybody in this industry is looking for their next deal, right? They're looking for business or whatever. I think, one thing that's valuable, at least what I've seen, in my experience is the ability to, one, like you said, listen in those conversations and then pinpoint what their needs are and then be able to connect that dot. Whether it's in that conversation. I mean, one thing that I've tried to get better at, I wasn't early in my career, you don't have really the network. You don't,
right. It's harder to do it.
Yeah. But if you're, you have a problem, they're like, well, we can't get, connected to these framers or whatever. We're looking for a space. Like, oh, I know the perfect person, right. And then sending them their contact or setting up a lunch meeting to connect them or whatever. I think that's the value in the ecosystem of a network, right? The ability to do that. And because you solve problems with people and people and their businesses can solve those problems together.
Yeah.
So I think that's really invaluable. And it's listening, it's solving their problems, and then having the empathy on the end.
I think too, and it's way overlooked, is spend time in the community doing things that aren't professionally related. And what I mean by that is, so when I was a banker, I was real involved with the American Cancer Society. I worked with Harris Rosen. I worked with the Demings. We did Cattle Barons Ball. Bob Holston actually is a developer here in town, is who got me ultimately into the American Cancer Society and really focused on the community. And I think that what that did is it takes the I can do this for you or you can do that for me mentality, and you're really doing something collectively for the community. And now you've built genuine relationship without something I'm going to get from you or you're going to get from me.
Yeah.
And then what that's led to for me is, after doing it for 20 years, you've got all these really core, genuine relationships with very successful, smart people and a lot of diversity.
Right.
The other thing about network is it needs to be diverse. If all you ever do, and this is no disrespect to any of the real estate organizations, but if all you ever do is spend time at cocktail parties for real estate organizations or networking events there, your network's going to be pretty pigeonholed to that.
Right.
So if you can find a way to go and do things in the community with a diverse, broad set of people, that's really valuable.
Yeah.
Is kind of that diversity of your relationship.
It is. And one thing, like we had mentioned in the elevator up with CCC, like that's one thing that we've found. We do the CSR events, right? Where we're going out and volunteer. And it's literally no business, right? We're just figuring out how we can help. And we did the Make-A-Wish. We're going to design farms. We're actually getting dirty and building, vegetable gardens and things. And it just goes so far. And it's really cool to see that people connect on a personal level
Yeah.
and not even talk about business. I mean, there is some like, oh, we know what you do, who are you with, kind of thing, introduction. But it's like we all have the same mission in that day or in that event or whatever it is to kind of go forth. And it does subconsciously build that relationship early on. Or it starts the depth at least.
Well, and I think too, like again, back when I was a banker and even now I'm really involved with the Howard Phillips Center for Children and Families and Orlando Health. And, you know, you're doing something good with others. So not only is it you're having that conversation in the moment, but now you've got other things that are a little bit deeper to talk about with people that weren't there with you to do it. And and I think too, like even early as a banker, like I could invite my clients to these things. And it shows you actually do care and have depth. And again, that's really invaluable. Yeah. Plus you're doing what you should be doing, which is giving back to your community.
Right. Investing in the community.
So it's a win-win. I mean, beyond
absolutely.
That, so.
All right. So we're going to jump into rapid fire questions.
All right.
When are you the most productive?
Morning.
What's something new happening in your life?
My youngest daughter is driving as of Monday.
Oh, good luck. What scares you? Your youngest daughter driving?
Yeah. Reference prior answer. What scares me? Snakes.
Snakes.
I hate snakes.
Okay. What advice would you give your younger self?
Ask more questions.
That's interesting. What's the biggest compliment you've ever received?
Anytime someone compliments me on my family.
Okay. 5 words to explain yourself.
Like a sentence or 5 separate words?
5 words. It's hard. It's a lot harder than you think.
Yeah. I would say laid back.
Hyphenated.
Yeah, that's one word. That's one word. Occasionally focused. That's also hyphenated. Resourceful, creative, and empathetic.
If you had to ask or tell God one thing, what would it be?
I would definitely ask. I probably wouldn't tell him anything. He wouldn't already know. I would ask him to make me more mindful of the needs of others around me.
Interesting.
I don't think I'm always very good at that.
I think a lot of us aren't. I think we're naturally selfish human beings. And I think that's something that we all can focus on.
Helpful if I could be better at that.
All right. Lastly, how can people get connected to you?
Bring me a deal.
Bring me a deal.
Let me
don't ask
to make money. No, don't email me a canned email. I'm pretty accessible, actually. I not hard to get my cell phone, not hard to get my email. But I would say it's easier to engage with people from scratch when they have a specific need or request or something that you can help with. The nebulous, we talked a little bit about that. Like the nebulous, like, hey, we love to get together. Sometimes it's not that you don't want to, it's just there's only so much time.
Yeah.
So it's easier if there's something that's needed or wanting to be pitched or whatever, just kind of lay that out there. It's so much easier to do that.
Yeah.
And then volunteer for the Howard Phillips Center or Orlando Health, Arnold Palmer Medical Center. I'll probably be there.
There you go. Trey, it's been a pleasure, man.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it. Beyond the Blueprint, this has been Branson Bowen and Trey Vick. On this episode, we will see you next time. Stay tuned.